Hey, let's talk about Wiley Wargame Weekend. Hey, it's me and Steve.
Hoy, hoy.
We're down in the HQ. Steve's at his painting table as usual. I got my gin. Steve's got his brouhaha.
I got my beer for
now. Looks like McMurray and Not Jay are on board. And we're doing this because Not Jay messed up his so bad that I have to redo the whole show. So you might recognize some of the pictures, but we're going to go into a better explanation than he had. But
there'll be a better narrative.
Yeah. So if you don't know, Wiley Wargames Weekend is does several things. We started it back when I turned 50, and we rented out this sweet basement of a local brewery, and we made a little mini convention. We had about 50 people, about 8 tables. It was wondrous. We decided, let's do it again next year. So COVID hit. We did a virtual one. And so this year, my wife said, we need to do it again. We kept our normal places all fell through because of restrictions. So she was the one that said, let's just do it at our house. And so we put out the call. We said, everyone's got to be vaccinated. She actually checked people's cards at the door. We did name tags. We did everything. Hey, we're dropped down to one person. We just had we had 16 people, which worked out perfectly. We had 4 different states represented, north, south, east, and we set up 6 tables, which we're going to show pictures of, and we had a grand old time. Now, this was also a fundraiser for a convention we're trying to start here in Kansas City in the spring. Not tentatively, we're calling it March to Victory. We're trying to find a place to hold it right now. And this was a fundraiser for all the money that we charged people to get in, and refreshments and everything were put towards having this lovely weekend. So without further ado, let's look at some pictures.
Hit it.
Kick it. Share screen. Yes, that's what I want to share. I want to share this. Ooh, let's go full. Let's go full screen on this baby. As soon as I can find it. Nope, that's not it.
Don't show them the porn.
I am trying to. Why is they giving me? Oh, there we go.
So what that is, my friends, that is the fabled, often disappearing, vaguely reappearing buck naked Baron.
So he shows up on our games table, painted by the talented John Fleckel. That's me in miniature form, naked except for a black cape with my logo on it, carrying a PBR. Sometimes we put him on the table, and it's kind of like Christmas, whoever can find him first. There's the Baron himself and his holiday regalia standing in front of one of our tables. That's me because it was my 52nd birthday, so that's what we did. This was a Friday and Saturday night affair. You can see my daughter already ate a chunk of the cake.
I thought you did.
Nope. So we'll start off here. I've got these in a little bit of alphabetical order, so we're not skipping around all over the place. But this was a 54 millimeter French and Indian war game put on by Chris Clucky, who we've talked about in the past on my show, on Not Jay's show. So many teddy bears had to die to make this table. These are all 54 millimeter John Jenkins French and Indian War figures that Chris does a wonderful job of rebasing. A lot of the figures are the same. They come pre-painted, but Chris goes back in and he mixes them up a little bit, puts a little paint here, a little paint there. So they got different hair, little accoutrement painted. That's my Great Dane in there, Boo, for size comparison. But you can see up close here, he puts little leaves on all the bases and tufts and everything like this. There's all the boys playing. You can see Not Jay there. Chris is second from the right. This was kind of a stand-up affair where they just sort of lined up and went. And Chris was using muskets and mohawks, which I think is 2-hour war games. So we had some non-fistful lead there going on. Nice close-up. I think this was taken by either Chris or McMurray of the beautiful stuff.
Yeah, that's a great
right
shot.
there in the woods. Those are French Marines. English giving them what for. Okay, so here was the we did the French and Indian War game was played on Saturday afternoon. Chris only had a little bit of time to run it. So then we set up the fantasy table in the downstairs living room next to our normal gaming area. We did a live stream of this, but because we didn't really have it set up the right way, or it wasn't set up for how we normally film stuff, this was kind of just, you were just watching a mob playing, but it was still fun. Anyway, coming from the north up here were the undead, led by Moldar Gravestone. Coming from this area here were the orcs. We had some bugbears over here in the corner. And the chaos forces of chaos. We had some facing them. We had the barbarians. We had the elves. We had the men of the local kingdom, and the whole game was basically the bad guys were trying to grab livestock and humans. Half of the bad guys wanted to actually eat the livestock and the humans. They got points for that. And some of them actually wanted them as hostages. So nominally on the same side, but actually kind of also on the little bit of tension in between them. And then the good guys were trying to prevent them. So they could get within 6 inches of the villagers. And on a regular task roll, they could warn them, and a warned villager would make a beeline for the closest exit off the table. So victory points for them for as many as they could save. You'd be surprised how many people could not roll a 5 or above. So a little view of the village. Most of this is 3D printed, the walls and everything like that. Of course, the trees and the fields and stuff aren't, but everything else is. So this is another, when I talk about terrain and the littles, we've got little wagons. The blacksmithy has his blacksmith stuff. This little lady's brewing some food out here. I think it really adds to the storyline. So here's a shot of the fantasy table, and then in the distance you can see the other 2 tables we have set up. There's Sir Roderick trying to get the locals to listen to him, which they did not.
It's a great figure.
Yep. This is the vaunted Brian the Bugbear, who tales will be told for years to come. Jay Reese, who was controlling the bugbears, went through the entire game without actually ever attacking anyone, only being attacked himself. And when he was attacked, he was just killing everybody. He was gobbling up peasants left and right. No one could seem to kill him till finally Chris Copeland showed up with some lowly human, managed to bring down Brian. And the next day, my wife had made a name tag for him that said Chris the Brian Slayer, which he was very happy with. So here's that first night. We've got Chris the Killer. We've got our boys from
posed as Captain Morgan.
Posed as Captain Morgan down here in the Nerd Cave. We've got Bill and Sean came down from Lincoln. boy Dorian came in from Kansas along with Scott. There's Lead Addict himself, old school Ken. He was running the Elementalist crew, who did not fare so well. All of our magic users got whacked pretty early. There's the elves making their way down the road. The barbarians who were killed almost to a man and woman by Brian.
This is the first.
There he is.
Actually, this is the first official fantasy game at Casa Wiley since the release of the fantasy rules officially.
It is. So got to use the new cards and everything. That was pretty cool. Game went really well. So this was the joust that we ran on Saturday evening. This was a 16-person single elimination joust. The miniatures, the rules, everything are done by Thomas Foss. It's called Breaking Lances. The miniatures are available on his Skull and Crown site. All carved from woods are these beautiful flats. They're just a blast to paint. And the winner, who ended up being Bill from Lincoln, he ended up we gave him a full set of 2 nights, the course and the planning shield. So down at the bottom, you could see the planning shields, which are how you set what your knight is going to do each turn. So it's kind of a rock, paper, scissors system. It's excellent. Can't wait for Thomas to finally release this. So all the cool tents, all the flats and everything are all done by him. It was a lot of fun and also frustrating because I got destroyed in the first turn and it was my birthday. All right. Brings us to Masters of the Universe. So Steve came over and played this Saturday morning, befitting a Saturday morning cartoon. We're here on Eternia. We've got out the giant fallen skeleton of the fallen Titan, the ruins of an old Eternian fortress. And Steve, do you want to break down what the scenario was?
Yeah, I think we had five little pockets of Eternium. Gee, I'm getting a little bit of feedback on myself from you. And those were placed on the board. Yeah, it was 5, I think, at different places. And good or bad, the object was basically get as much Eternium off the table as you could, and survive while doing so. There was a Joker, but whoever had played the Joker in hand got to play the character of Zodak, who basically makes sure that everything is balanced in the universe. And for both games that we played, he completely sucked. He showed up and died immediately.
Oh, I thought he did a little bit in your game. When we ran it Saturday night, he showed up and was dead instantly.
He didn't do much. And then so basically we had started it where King Randor had some guardsmen that were the guys that found the Eternium and connected back with King Randor to let them know they had found it, which the bad guys overheard. So we placed a group of henchmen in the middle of the table of Eternian guards, and they couldn't do anything. They couldn't be shot at. They couldn't shoot. They were just there until King Randor got to them, like within 2 inches, and then had to activate those guys. And then the good guys got those added to their crew. It didn't help. I think in both games, the bad guys just completely destroyed them.
Yeah.
So the good guys had outnumbered the bad guys at certain points. Well, yeah. The first game ended up a tie, I believe, and I had to leave, before the second game was over.
Yeah, the second game, it was a complete evil victory. We lost one guy and just destroyed the other side. So here we've got. These are all painted by Steve. I did the trade, but Steve did all these great figures. We've got Faker. We've got Skeletor, Triclops, Beastman, Spikor, Evil Lynn, not Evelyn.
Yes, Chris, Evil Lynn, not Evelyn.
Scareglow, Trapjaw, Stinkor, and Jitsu.
Yes.
These are not the come on figures. These are some other ones. We've got Hordak, Merman, Clawful. That's I
King
can't remember.
Hiss.
King Hiss and
yeah, the Clawful. These are all based off of the animated
yeah,
He-Man and the Masters of the Universe because they look different, a little bit different from their
yeah,
action figure. Like Clawful. Okay, I'm getting Masters of the Universe nerdy. Clawful in the animation looks completely different than he does from the Mattel toy. Like totally different. Yeah.
yeah. We got the Sorcerers, Rayman, Man at Arms himself, Cyclone, and Moss Man. I personally killed all of these with my bare hands. There's King Randor, Buzz Off, Manny Faces, Fisto, and I can't remember the dude with the claw.
Clamp Champ.
Clamp Champ.
Clamp Champ.
And of course, Prince Adam, Orko, Stratos, Mechaneck, and Tila. Now, we had a special mechanism that Prince Adam could not turn into He-Man until he was out of line of sight of the other characters and had to use an action to turn. So
the only well, hold on. The only person that could see Adam change were his three friends, Man at Arms, Orko, and the Sorceress.
Yes.
But anybody else, you would, because at the end, whoever we would go through and see who had. If you had Eternium, you had to roll a dice, and that's how much you got. So it was at the end. It was all points.
Yeah.
And if you changed to He-Man, you would lose a drastic amount of points
sure.
if somebody saw you.
So there was so much excitement that first night. This little soldier got so tuckered out.
Oh,
yeah.
He is so lucky he didn't get messed with.
All right, we had Star Wars Saturday night again. I did all the terrain, but Steve did all the miniatures. Good mix of Legion and Skullforge and some other manufacturers. So grown miniatures. This one was right out of the Galactic Heroes game, which was these aren't the droids you're looking for. So Luke with R2 had to get across to the spaceport, but along the way they needed to find another droid that had the other half of the plans to get there. So that was the Star Wars game. We only got to play one of those.
And no, there was no crossovers.
There were no crossovers
between the Masters of the Universe.
So for the Victorian Horror, we ran this twice. I ran it on Friday and I ran it on Saturday. In this case, the vampires had hidden 8 coffins around town, 4 of which contained the native soil of their homeland, which they needed to sleep in during the day. Dawn is coming, and they have hired some local toughs to help guard their coffins. And facing them are a group of werewolves, some hunters, a nefarious professor who wants to has his own devices set on the undead and the werewolves, and then the local constables trying to just keep order. So we're on dockside here, and there's some werewolves, nice mix of manufacturers. These are the vampires. I love these vampires. These are done by Highgate Miniatures. I highly recommend them. They're beautiful miniatures. They're a lot of fun to paint. He also does some hunters, some gypsies. There's a shot of the town, people going about their business. We had lots of NPCs roaming around. There's Foulmouth Finnegan taking on the constables right before he goes down. First game, they mauled the coppers before they even got to do anything. Here's the werewolves giving the vampires what for. The second game, the werewolves got so chewed up that Ken just had to leave and go outside for a while.
Yeah, Ken was the vampire, or I was the vampires, and Ken was the werewolves. And I think by round 2 they were gone.
Yeah, they did not fare well. There's the money shot of the boat that McMurray loves so much.
We might hear moaning from McMurray here in a second.
Yep. All right. So, anywho, that's a quick, brief follow through.
It was a great time, and thank you guys, you and Robin, for hosting this. It was a blast. Everybody was great.
Good time. So we're gonna try to do this again in November. We're gonna try to keep doing these fundraisers and to work on trying to get this convention together. So looks like we've got 8 people in. Hey, yeah, Ryan, you should have shown.
Hey, everybody. And I think somebody had asked you on Facebook about the cards for Masters of the Universe.
Yes, the cards like this.
Cards like those.
These are what Steve made.
They're about possibly getting
this. He does it for our Star Wars. Now we could do these because we're not selling them or anything. The problem with sharing them, and especially with using the real names and the real pictures of the characters, me and Steve have a long background in licensing. So even if we give them away free, there's a little line in most licensing stuff that talks about the distribution of licensed or copyrighted material. So if we were to make them available, we wouldn't be able to call them Skeletor. We'd have to call them Skeletar and not have Skeletar, not have his picture on it.
Correct. The picture's the big one. The name
would have to be, Lucas Starscraper or something like that. So we are working on, eventually we're going to put together a bunch of these and have them available for people to get. So
yeah, and we talked about if there was a game that we played that Jay live streamed on it. I know it was something that is something a little bit more unique with specific stats for certain things that then after that game they would possibly get shared somehow, maybe through Wiley Games. Who knows? But like for Masters though, is like I could see where people could get those cards and go, now wait a minute, hold on, who's the leader, who's the specialist, who's the regular? Well, when I was going to make the cards and talking back and forth with Jay about like, okay, what should I do this? It's like we decided, piss on it. We're going to give these guys the stats that they should have, that they had in the cartoon or the lore that they had. It's like, well, this character does this. Well, okay, that's 1 or 2 more stats that they should have as a regular. Well,
they're all heroes, so they should.
Yeah, they're all heroes. It was very close. It was a very close. They're statted to almost. You felt like you're playing a fistful of lead superhero game.
Yeah, that's what it's supposed to be. And because they were all superheroes, they all went down because they're facing other big statted up thing. And it's the same way with the robots or anything else that we play. The World War II supers that we played. Break the rules when you're building your characters if it makes sense to, and everyone else has got the same thing. It worked with the Masters of the Universe game because everybody had the same level of troops. It wasn't like you were taking out some grunts or anything like that.
And it's like, people that have commented on Facebook or asked about point systems and balance, which is just the unholy of unholy words, is like, you don't say that. You don't talk about it. With Masters of the Universe, if I've got 5 bad guys that all have 2 or 3 skills, I make sure the good guys all have 2 or 3. You can look and you can kind of, you're not distributing points and it's balanced. It's like, okay. And you also have to keep in mind a shitty roll all night and bad cards. You can have the best characters. Well, you told me King Randor, Man at Arms, and He-Man all went out in the first round.
Yep.
And those are 3 of the best guys on the good guys.
Yeah, we had great cards and we had great rolls. Great cards and great rolls. We just mauled them. And then the same thing that happened with Ken in the werewolves. He couldn't get a break.
Well, and I not to bring up that points stuff, but I think that if you're looking to do like a points balanced game, you shouldn't play Fistful of Lead. Fistful of Lead plays and it's blast because it plays like a movie, it plays like a TV show, it plays like whatever scenario you're wanting to mimic, it plays exactly the way you want it to play. And that's what makes it great.
Yeah. So, which is a great segue because part of what we were going to talk about tonight is working on scenarios, primarily for Fistful of Lead, but also for, I think, anyone, because we get a lot of people that ask about scenarios and ask for them. I think if you take all the books and put them all together, if we don't have 100, we got close to it scenarios listed there. And I think people are afraid to take a scenario from one game and put it in another game, and it really doesn't matter. You could take one from Horse and Musket and play Wasteland Warriors with it, or vice versa. Of course, you're taking out the two-headed Techno Dragon from Wasteland Warriors, but you're replacing it with something else. But the basic structure of it is really what you're doing. And when I'm designing scenarios, for the most part, I will take something from a historical, either a historical actual battle, which is what we did in the Mexican Revolution book, Viva la Revolucion. And I actually went through and in order took battles from the Mexican Revolution and then broke them down and made them smaller for Fistful of Lead. But then also the biggest inspiration is from movies. So you look at any lots of different action movies have perfect plots that you could turn around and use, since most of the games that I put together are to give you that Hollywood feel. So it's a perfect way to form a game. I mean, the impetus for our last superhero game was based off of watching the Suicide Squad. So I just made it happen in World War II.
And like the Tales of Horror game that was at Wiley Wargames with the werewolves and the vampires in Victorian London. You can use that same, we were talking about this. You can use that same scenario, but you set it in the Old West, and I've got yet still to paint some Chinese vampires.
We could have these coffins arrive, these strange boxes arried
on a train,
on the railroad from
and the thing is
from the West.
It's the same. It's basically the same scenario. You skinned it, but it's not the same game. It won't play as the same game. It's a totally different flavor. It looks and it ends up playing completely different. It's just, you can just stretch scenarios and just use your imagination.
Yeah, and one of the things that, I mean, when I'm coming up with scenarios, obviously I've talked about using historical, I've talked about using stuff from movies, but for me it needs to be fast. There needs to be lots of movement. You need to have reasons for the character, the miniatures to move, whether there's things you got to go grab, or whether you need to get across the table, or whether it's an escort mission, or whether you need to go grab a terrain feature on the other side of the board. There needs to be a reason for your miniatures to be moving. And if there's not like that, then I personally like to put a time limit on stuff. So, and it could be a variable time limit, like it's fixed to a certain point, and then you roll the dice again to see if it keeps going. Because otherwise, people will tend to just camp out. We've got a couple campers in our group, and you need to have a reason for them to get out and do stuff. We got Greg who will sit in a outhouse for the entire game and wait for everyone else to die. I'm also a big believer, especially in these skirmish games, to give it more personality, that I don't do it a whole lot in big convention size games because it's just too much to go over in the short amount of time. But I like giving each group its own. Their side may have a specific goal, but within that, each individual team has their own specific goals. So for the Victorian London game, they had each side had a major goal, and then they had a minor one. So the hunters wanted to destroy the coffins, but then and the vampires, but then they also got points for taking out werewolves. Or the bobbies had to stop the bad guys who were helping the vampires, but then they also got points for I can't remember what it was for. They had somebody else they had to take out too. They had to arrest. I think it was Professor Nightshade. So anyway, giving them individual things, especially if there's some minor goals that will cause a little bit of skullduggery on the same side. If you can get them like the fantasy game, ultimately they're trying to eat and gobble stuff up, but we had a couple of fights because the bugbears were running up and grabbing and eating somebody before the chaos guys could get there, because they actually wanted the chaos. They actually wanted the citizens so they could capture them and use them for their slaves or their evil designs.
I know that a lot of times, and I used to do this actually before Jay was making his rules, is I would see figures at the store, because at that time you didn't have everybody had access to 3D printing. Back in my day, we didn't have it, you see. We made miniatures out of toothpicks. But I would look at figures and I would say, oh, this is badass. What the hell am I going to do with it? So now it's like, I love Star Wars. I love The Mandalorian. And there's a character that I saw on Skullforge. If you don't know what Skullforge is, just Google Skullforge, Gumroad. Beautiful stuff. He made the little frog lady from The Mandalorian. And I was like, oh, that's cool. I'm going to get it just to paint. But then it's like, okay, what would be a great scenario with it? Well, in the show, he escorts her to her planet. All right. So what could we do to that would be great to play in the game with The Mandalorian? What do we do? Okay. So first you look at your crew that you play with. You either play with one other person, or you at Jay's place, we're playing with like 8 people, sometimes 10 people. And Jay and I were talking, and it's like, okay, you've got to make it a time limit game, and the good guys
gotta get there before the ship takes off.
Yeah, the Mandalorian is in charge of the frog lady, and of course the Mandalorian has Grogu, aka Baby Yoda, with her. And what happens is you've got the leftover Imperials, and then you can also add in Planet Denzians or whoever, rebels or whoever, and the Mandalorian, the good guys or whoever, have to get this escort of frog lady from point A to point B, and you have to do it in X amount of time, because each turn you'll roll, and you have a total, let's say a total of 12 eggs and if you haven't seen Mandalorian, you have no idea what I'm talking about. She could have 12 eggs in her backpack, her aquatic backpack, and each turn you roll to see how many eggs Grogu's eaten. It keeps you moving. It keeps you moving. But then it starts to feel like the more you start to talk about it, and Jay and I talk about shit all the time, but it's like the more you start talking about it with people, the more it starts to flesh out a little bit more. And you're like, wow, this could be a really fun scenario.
Yeah.
So
there are going to be people trying to grab her eggs because they're worth something, or just trying to bring him in at the same time.
And not to pimp the Facebook page, but I will pimp the Facebook page for Wiley Games. Is I think that's a great place, and I don't see this happen. Is people can show miniature, if you've got miniatures and you don't know what the jack shit to do with them, you show them and say, I have these guys. Can somebody help me come up with a scenario?
Yeah.
Most of the time I'm seeing people post stuff that is really cool and they've already have stuff figured out, aka not Jay with his Tantive 4 stuff for Star Wars. That looks just great. And I can't wait to see how that plays out. But I mean, it's like,
well, and even in that,
there's so much stuff.
You got a scenario already kind of written there, but you also got to figure out how to make that game so it's not just a frontal assault thing where you've got these just alleyways.
Right.
There's got to be an aspect to it other than just running down the hallways and getting gunned down kind of a thing.
Right. And it's like we talked about doing Guns of the Navarone or Force 10 or whatever it is. That's a great. I mean, there's so much stuff that you can do.
Well, I think that's why skirmish level gaming lends itself to especially the kind of Hollywood scenarios and stuff. Just because
you
can give
Kelly's
each guy
Heroes
character and you can give these very specific scenario things. And okay, McMurray said, you mean how to make it balanced? No, I don't believe in balancing. I mean, you can, but you can make balanced games fun, and I understand why people want to do it. But to me, in designing a scenario, sometimes you need to have those. You need to give both sides a chance to win, but I don't think they're as fun. It's okay to have an unbalanced one, especially big battles. It's like Napoleon never fought a battle that he didn't think he could already win. You don't go up there and go, oh, well, I'm going to attack these guys because they got the same number of troops in Kansas I do. No, you try to get in a position to where you've got 10 times as much and just destroy them. So, yeah, balanced games are great for if you're going to be doing some kind of tournament or something like that. And for the most part, I think about what's going to be fun for the players, and I think that you can design a scenario that on the surface doesn't look like one side's got more than the other, and especially in an attack defense scenario, the attackers need to have way more than the defenders because the defenders are already set and they're just going down.
They're dug in.
You need to have, when you're doing, whether it's a historical one or you're basing it on a movie, you can call Star Wars historical because you've got so much lore and stuff built in. You need to base the tactics of the game on whatever the tactics of the scenario is. So if you're playing like a fantasy game and there's a bunch of guys who are just axe wielding dudes with no armor, and you're putting them against dudes who are in a fixed position with like bows and arrows, it's not gonna be fun to play. I've been to conventions or even played in some other games where it's just line them up and go, and it just comes down to the dice rolling. So you need to, when you're designing a scenario, you need to have enough room for maneuver, but at the same time, I think you need to have terrain that doesn't necessarily restrict movement, but it definitely needs to restrict like lines of sight, and it needs to have ways for the game to flow itself. So I am a big in my games that I'm designing. I try not to have a any more than 12 inches of straight line of sight to where you can just straight up shoot somebody. So even when I got a cowboy town and I got these roads, opened up, I've got carts and horses and cows and stuff moving because I want shots to be, I don't want the guy up in the window to be able to cream everybody that's out there. I want stuff coming by. I want civilians in the way. I want like a bustling town that's going to break that up, whether it's like a jungle or anything like that. That's why I think I'm not drawn to naval games or too much of space games, space fighter games and stuff. Even I wrote space fighters, but big ship games, because there's nothing to break up that kind of shooting and all that kind of stuff. So I think you need to have something that's gonna to restrict, just keep people from just sitting there and just blazing away.
Right. I really liked and I need to think about that and use it with the stuff that you did for the Tales of Horror stuff for Wiley Wargame Weekend, where you had your main objective, but then you also had the secondary stuff. And it didn't bog anything down to where it's like you've over scenarioed to the point it's just like your brain blocks out and you just go out there and start shooting whatever moves.
Well, I tried to set them up so they were kind of opposite, so there's a reason why they had to come across, and then by moving them towards the center, then the people who had secondary objectives are like, oh, there's a werewolf. He's on my little list of victory points. I should take a shot at him. And then the werewolf guy's like, why are you shooting at me? And then, you got to have that friction of and either the friction's either caused by the forces or it's caused by the terrain or whatever. I mean, a lot of people will plan stuff and they'll put and I love put rivers in my stuff, but you need to make it to where it's not such a place where all your forces get restricted and they're shoveling down these like special places to cross and stuff, because the other guy will just line up and wait and just shoot your ass. So what you need to have is a little mechanic in there where it's like, oh, but there's a ford that the attackers know about, but the defenders don't, or something like that, to where there are these little things that are allowed, and the defender's like, what the fuck? He's crossing right there? He's not supposed to be able to cross there.
He's going to get washed away.
Yeah. So you need to have little mechanics like that to sort of break up the obvious things. And, also, Will, if you're playing if you're playing with like a game master, you need to pull some stuff from the old dungeon master bag and be able to just.
I was going to suggest that too.
Yeah, you need to be able to be flexible enough to do a little thinking on the fly, especially if you can see some of the players are like,
Yeah, dungeons playing D&D really helps.
Yeah,
I think, and I think sometimes and I've been guilty of it when I've been planning scenarios, is just overcomplicate. You like adding so much stuff. It's like, no, wait a minute, just don't overcomplicate it. Strip it down quite a bit, and it's like. Then if you're hard set on all that stuff, then think about making it a campaign or a multi-chaptered scenario.
Yeah, I think so. I think linked scenarios are some of the funnest to play, just because so many scenarios are just set up to where you just kind of fight to the death. And if you're playing a link scenario where my forces get too chewed up to where they're not even going to be good in the next fight, and it makes you think about the next thing. So that's my problem with a lot of war games, is that they're one-offs. So you play them like they're one-offs. I got nothing invested. I know. Back to D&D, we were playing we did a little one-off last week where Steve was dungeon mastering. We knew it was just going to be a little one-off game. We got these randomly generated characters. Well, I played them completely different than I would play my long-term character in another game because
Yeah.
I don't want to, I don't want my long-term guy to get killed. I make decisions based on that. Well, this one-off, I'm like, fuck it. I'm never going to play with this guy again. I'll do shit that I would normally do.
What was his name? He was
Dangle Dirty Digits.
Yeah, Dangle Dirty Digits. He was a pickpocket. So dumb. But
he was a halfling with a mustache, which you've never seen.
I think some of my favorite that we've played scenarios that are linked scenarios, and I'm not saying it because it's Star Wars, just I'm saying it because it mattered, and it was the decisions that you made affected the other games, to where we played a linked Star Wars game. The first game was we used starfighters, and it was an outer space ship game. And Jay, you thought of the scenarios for this, and so you got
I wanted to do
flex
a game
my memory on this one.
Yeah, I want to do a game where the first game had an effect on the second, which had an effect on the third. So whoever won the space battle got special bonuses in the ground battle, which then led to an even larger battle. That if whoever won that second one got big reinforcements in the third battle,
or the strafing runs and stuff.
Yeah. Whoever won the first battle got control of the skies basically, and was able to call in, air support on the second one. But in the second one, they were trying to shut down like a power grid thing that would let them bring in reinforcements or shut down the anti-aircraft stuff that would allow them to bring in more forces for the final battle in the end.
Right.
And it worked out really well. My dream is still to do 3 tables going simultaneous that are all interconnected in a way where what happens on each one of the tables has an effect on the other ones, so that at the moment that objective is one of the objectives is made on one of the tables, then on the other tables, I'm like, okay, they've shut down the shields. You can now enter this part of the table, or
it's Rogue One. It's Rogue One, where they're down there and they shut off this and that and this, and it opens the door. And
it lets in the fire.
That would be great.
Yes.
Yeah.
Not Jay has been the victim of many a TIE fighter strafing run, so I feel his pain. But and talking about a lot of having multiplayer games, you gotta design a scenario in such a way that everyone's involved at all times. Because if you're doing something where, your forces don't come in till later, and then that person just kind of sitting there through, the first couple of turns or whatever. We reserve that for the people who show up late to games. I'm like, this is your punishment.
Right.
But as a set piece, it's not that much fun. But we were talking about victory conditions. I think that coming up with clear, attainable but not easy victory conditions are the key to making a fun scenario. You don't want to just hand it to them, but you also want to make it attainable, and whether that's in the amount of time they have to do. So if it means you're trying to get from point A to point B, you need to measure and see, okay, if I'm moving at full speed, am I going to make that if I go every turn, kind of a deal? Or do I have a chance of taking this objective with the forces I've been given, kind of thing? I've been working on a couple of tables to where we'll have like a random secondary objective that your team has to get, and you don't know it till right before it, kind of a deal. So, it shows up comes over the radio at the last minute. Oh, we need you to do this too. Sexy Hexy in the house.
Hey, Hexy.
Uh-oh.
I missed that noise.
I do too.
Oh man, Baron, we got some good ones today.
We got some good. What came in the mailbag today, Steve?
Well, I had to blow the dust off of them because it's been a while since we've done the mailbag because we've had.
Well, I like to do the mailbag when we
guests.
got special guests on. I try to.
Yeah, we had
keep
smashing
the
guests.
Closed.
We got to keep things positive. All right, here's the first one. Dear Wiley Games, I would like to order a fantasy hardback, but there doesn't seem to be a way to do so on your website. Sincerely, Missed the Boat in Mississippi.
You mean this? Sweet,
yes.
Lovely hardback, full color.
I think it's this.
In one. There's like a special
autograph
dungeon scenario in the back, signed by yours truly, with cover design by Steve, with a full section picture by Steve for all the different colors. It's just, I sleep with it under my pillow. So
it is a sexy book, not Jay.
We put this
very sexy book.
Pre-order for 90 days on our website. We put it on all of our social media, on our Instagram, on our Twitter. We put it on both the Wiley Facebook pages, the store one and the private one. And we took pre-orders for 90 days. And we told people, once this is done, it's done, because the hardbacks, frankly, are really expensive, and we don't make that much money on it. It was more of a vanity project for me. I always wanted a nice hardback, going back to my
I thought you were talking about something else.
Yeah, D&D days. And so we gave plenty of people the pre-order, and all that pre-order money is what we used to actually have these printed. So they ain't ever coming back. So if you got one, you are in a special club. And I'm sorry if you're just now figuring out that we exist. We're about ready to, in November, celebrate our 5th anniversary of having our website. We've been around since 2001 with rule books and stuff. But our first Wiley website started 5 years ago. So we're running a special sale in November. And yeah, so it was kind of snooze, you lose. Sorry, but everything that's in there is in the 3-volume collected set. You can buy it as a bundle, and if you buy it as a bundle with the cards, it's at 15% off of what it would normally be to buy them all separately. So that's all I got to say on that one.
Or it's also available as PDF, which leads to the next letter, Baron. Dear sirs or madam, I'm interested in your game, but would like to see how it's played before I invest. Can you send me a PDF on how it's played? On the fence in Philly. Jeez.
Yeah, we've got playthroughs on the website. We've got plenty on this channel of playing the games. A good Google will show you how all kinds of playthroughs of the games, descriptions of the different Wiley War games. But best of all, you want to buy you want to buy the core rule book to get you going. You want to buy Galactic Heroes, one of those. You can get a PDF for the low price of $7. So, as I said before, the price of a fancy coffee at Starbucks. So, if you don't want to invest $7 and find out you don't like it, then wargaming's not a cheap hobby.
It is not. It is not. And there is very little tolerance for that.
Yeah, and then there's, if you want to just if you like having a physical book and you like having the PDFs to put on your tablet or to read on your phone, or just however you want to do it, the PDF bundles are also sold at a reduced price, 15% off. So, yeah, you might have to pay for these and then pay for the PDFs, but we're giving them to you cheap, even if you go to Osprey. And now they're starting to give PDFs, ebooks with their as a bundle with their regular books. They're giving you a discount when you buy both of them. Just you're going to discount the book and a discount on the PDFs. You're not getting them, you're not getting one and getting the other one free. So you can do that, and so that's basically what we're doing too. Yes, Jay asks, wait, aren't those free? No.
So that's the mailbag is empty.
All right.
Maybe
sure
next
we'll
time
have plenty of more next month.
Oh, I'm sure. Talking about scenarios, a cool one that you've been doing every year and that you'll live stream Thursday, I'm assuming, Thursday, is the Revenant Hunt. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, so every year we do the annual Revenant Hunt. So the best of European society gets together and they go out in the woods and they hunt zombies. And we actually made it into a PDF that you can download from our site. And each group is trying to take out the zombies and, more importantly, take out the spawning points from which the zombies come from. But the problem is each turn more zombies spawn, and they are attracted by gunfire and other loud noises. So the more that the hunters discharge their weapons, the more zombies appear. So it becomes a sort of race against time to destroy the spawning points. And if you roll particularly horrible, one of the chances is that not only we get zombies, but you'll get what we call a dark master, which can be a werewolf or a vampire or a ghost, not Jay's
or a lesser demon,
that sort of thing. And every time you destroy a spawn point, you get a special weapon that will aid you in defeating them. So every game, I think for one over the last 5 or 6 years, has been a really close thing with only a few hunters left at the end. We had one where it was just the hunters just mauled everything. There was no stopping them. It was not good for the forces of darkness.
So I know that like one time I got something to help. There was like a werewolf, and then finally I got something, and the thing I got was the silver bullets, but the werewolf was on the opposite side of the table. It was pointless. The thing that sucks is if you shoot the zombies, it'll attract more zombies.
Yeah, you get a noise token.
A noise token, and it's a random number of zombies. And then the other thing that sucks is that if you go into hand-to-hand with one of the zombies and you get bit, you've got a life expectancy that you'll be. It's basically slow poison, and if you go into hand-to-hand combat, there's a chance that there are marked zombies you don't know until you flip over the figure that they'll just blow up.
Yes, they're full of gas.
Yeah,
and then
so
the people who die come back as zombies. So
yeah, it's a no-win situation. No-win situation.
Yeah. So McMurray pointed out that yes, we have a video of one of the Revenant hunts on this YouTube channel. So
yeah, but I think we all have our shirts on in that one. This one's going to be a little bit different.
Yes. We wear top hats, have canes and monocles, that sort of thing. So we always do it right before Halloween. We're going to do it this Thursday. We're actually postponing one of our big D&D matches just so we can have it because people kind of look forward to it each year. So we'll be doing that. Now I just got to come up with a Christmas theme one that isn't dumb.
I thought you were going to do Snow Brawl. I thought
I'll
that was
probably
the
do
new
Snow Brawl. I guess I need to paint up some more miniatures for that.
We need to find a miniature of Santa Claus, and I've got some Martians to paint. up,
Oh,
which
Santa
I got
Claus
a
versus
ton
the
of them. We
Martians,
could do Santa Claus versus the Martians for a cool scenario.
where you have to kill off the Martians and rescue Santa Claus. And you have to do it before midnight so he can deliver all the toys in time.
There you go. Scenario on the spot.
It's written. We just wrote.
Yeah, I've downstairs. I've got a bunch of I actually bought them at Recruits, I think, a couple of years ago. They're they're Mars Attacks ish looking. They're not as cool as the Mars Attacks.
Or you can just get a bunch of like scuba diver dudes, like from the movie from Santa Claus versus the Martians. Those dudes look like they were wearing like scuba gear painted green, and you could just cut their flippers off.
So we're brainstorming. We're brainstorming live here. So oh God, I could paint up those Martians. They would go fast. And then I also have a ton of the bones, the plastic bones miniatures. They had a bunch of flying saucers that they made. And I think I got like 6 or 8 of those. But where the hell? I don't know if one of you guys know where we can find a Santa Claus.
Oh, there's plenty of Santa Clauses. The problem's finding like a normal one that isn't like armed with a gun or something. Oh, we mentioned Recruits, so Not Jay says pour one out for the Recruits.
Yeah.
Pour one on this one's for my dead homies.
Yep.
Yeah.
Which is hopefully going to be resurrected with your March convention.
Yep. We just got to find a place. If anybody knows a good place to host in the greater Kansas City area, that would be great, because right now we are getting nothing. So every place we have tried to find a host is either way too expensive or just flat out doesn't call us back. So
even the brewery,
I don't think it's going to be big enough.
Oh,
honestly,
yeah,
because we'll get 100 to 150 people easy. So we need to have a place that can support that. I mean, it's a fallback kind of thing, but I also don't want it to be having that many people going up and down like the stairs and all that kind of stuff. I think is a little bit too much. So,
McMurray says he's got evil gingerbread men.
Well, we want to have. I've got those, but we want to have a place that has space for vendors. We want to have gingerbread. We want to have gingerbread. We want to have vendors come, that kind of thing. So, and we're not expecting to be too big right off the bat, but it'd be nice to have something that we could grow, for the foreseeable future. So
it won't be at your mom's house then?
Won't be at my mom's house this year, which we almost did this year for Wiley Wargames Weekend. But we plan to have a Wiley Wargames Weekend in November. Probably won't have one in December with everybody getting ready for Christmas. Probably one in January and possibly February. And all those are like fundraisers. So we'll see how it goes. And much smaller affairs. They'll probably just have it'll just be for a Saturday, and it'll just be like one big game because, it was a lot to have my entire house as one big wargaming convention with every room had a table in it. So we're playing a late night game, and my wife's trying to sleep.
And what a saint she is, and that you guys, it was so fantastic. And I know McMurray and Not Jay and Todd were there. Todd may have jumped off, but all those guys had a good time, except for Not Jay when he fell asleep. The narcolepsy was
all
acting up.
out from all the fun. What are you talking about?
Yeah. He just overcome with gaming. He had to pass out for a little bit.
Yeah. Well, anytime we get out on the Star Wars stuff, he starts to like shake.
That's, yeah. It was a great time, and you guys went far and beyond what I think anybody or anybody's wife would ever put up with.
So for November, it's going to be November. We're going to do post-apocalyptic November. I got to come up with a better name. But we're going to be featuring Wasteland Warriors up front, because it's my little redheaded stepchild. It does not get enough love, and it's a great game, especially if you're going to run a campaign, because there's a whole mechanism in it for like keeping your crew alive by collecting food and all that kind of stuff, and all these like crazy monsters, and the mutations make it fun. I mean, half of the He-Man stuff were mutations from Wasteland Warrior. So we'll be featuring that, because we're going to have a big Wasteland Warriors table. Old school Ken has been working overtime making these gigantic, beautiful collapsed buildings with, rubble and rust sticking out, and like giant cockroaches and rats running around and all that kind of stuff. So I think it'll be fantastic. So
hey, in the comments, Garm says, running a kung fu scenario. Only one side has close combat weapons. The other side are Shaolin monks with no weapons. Any suggestions about it?
So it's all going to be completely no ranged weapons whatsoever. I mean, I would make it so that rather than just having everybody run at each other and punch each other, kind of a thing, you need to have either terrain to kind of break stuff up. You need to have defined goals where they're running to. So you don't want to just have a line up and go at it. So whether it's, you're trying to defend a sacred temple, or within the temple, you're trying to do certain things like activate this statue and it does something.
Yeah.
Activate this statue and it does something. Maybe there's some mystical guardians thrown in that'll attack players.
That was going to be my suggestion.
That kind of stuff. I mean, you can run just a pure hand-to-hand battle, because that's essentially what the fantasy game is for the most part. Yeah. You get arrows and stuff in there.
And you could, if you wanted to do this, and this is where kind of I end up leaning, is go and gussy it up a little bit by going that like the old Shaw Brothers movies where it's like the 5 deadly venoms, and even going over to like Big Trouble in Little China, to where you got more mystical characters, where the monks, this one is Tiger style, and this one is the deadly mantis or whatever, and then pull some of the stuff from the fantasy books out to give them, you're giving them ranged weaponry, but it's magic. It's more more crazier stuff. Not just as objectives are key.
It's less about the actual combat stuff and more about some of the other things. Jay said we should call it Thanks Guys Day weekend. Well, we may not have it that Saturday after Thanksgiving. We have been invited to a wedding of close friend's daughter. So that day. So we're either going to have to move it, or the game starts at like 10. We are done at 4 o'clock. I put on my suit and go to the reception. And then during the day, Robin's going to go to the wedding and all that kind of stuff. So we've got a couple options, but it may not.
We'll just stay at your house and play while you're at the wedding.
Or you're going to stay at my house and play.
I got copies of rule books.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it's my biggest thing is, set up some objectives, do some research, and in this case, watch a bunch of kung fu movies, and then
they're ridiculous.
And then, it's a great excuse to, and then play test it, even if it's just yourself. Play test. My son and me play all the scenarios that we've got. So we sit down and we go through them, and we take notes on, well, what if you do this, and then ultimately know that no matter what you do, things can go one way or the other. We've like for instance, the Masters Universe game, it was really tight when you guys played it. It was a complete blowout when we played it. And I've had games like that where I've run one of the scenarios that I run for conventions with Reloaded. I have run this thing 20 times, and every time it's different. So
Hmm.
you have to be aware that even if you try it and test it, some things are going to, anytime you're throwing in dice and cards, you're going to have stuff happen that you can't foresee. So I would just try to get in as much character in it as you can. Like I said, individual objectives, like maybe you're trying to defend one side's trying to defend, a sacred statue or something, and everyone's got an objective, and maybe this guy or this group friggin' hates somebody on the other side so bad that they either have to attack them or they have to pass a test to keep from attacking them. They'll leave their position to go attack these dudes because they are the mortal enemies of your clan or something like that. So or have a mechanism where you can call somebody out and honor demands that they have to go fight them, kind of a thing.
And when in doubt, add zombies.
Add zombies. And you can actually look at like cowboy scenarios, which are all basically samurai scenarios.
Absolutely.
But again, don't get stuck with the genre that you're in. You can have great ideas come from totally different places. I've got oh God, what was it? I texted you about it. There was a movie I was watching, and the actual genre that I was thinking about for the scenario had nothing to do with the period that was in the movie, but I thought it was a great escort, or it was a great mission. Oh, I was watching. I didn't text you, Steve. I texted McMurray.
I was going to say, you texted me about Step Brothers.
Yeah. No, I just sent you quotes from Step Brothers. No, I had texted not Jay and McMurray about this movie called The Forgotten Battle. It's about it's ultimately about one of the battles that was happening at the same time as Operation Market Garden in World War II, but it was an escort mission for a wounded pilot that had crashed, and these guys were trying to get him to safety. And it's an escort mission, but it's also got a twist because there's water, and they're knee deep in water, and they're kind of bringing him around on this boat. And there's all these marshy areas, and there's these patrols that are coming through. So you don't want to. So you can do this whole thing where you're trying to do this escort, but also sort of stay hidden. And it's kind of like the zombie thing. That any kind of shooting or anything, you're going to activate more guys. So I thought about using our Revenant Hunt sort of basis, sort of the mechanics of that, where you've got more enemy soldiers are coming in, the more noise and crazy stuff that you're doing. So
yeah,
that could be fun.
That could be very, very, very fun.
We're all about mixing genres, so
I want to do
zombie German soldiers.
Something. Speaking of zombies, I would love to do the one of my favorite bad movies is Shockwaves.
I knew you were going to say that.
You knew I was going to say that. I own it. I'll probably watch it tomorrow. I own a gazillion horror films, but with Peter Cushing in his bad toupee, R.I.P. Peter Cushing. As a kid, I was freaking terrified of those zombies. But I want to play
coming up out of the water.
Yeah, with goggles, and to stop them, rip their goggles off. But I love those. Who's making those miniatures? Somebody was going to make those miniatures, but I want to do an island with those on there. I want to have sharks. Because every time I played a game where there's water involved, it's just nobody really goes into the water, or they have to cross through water, and they possibly get swept away. It's like, I want it to where you have to like swim for a little bit. There's sharks there. There's a chance to fall off boats and just throw in some sort of goons like that. I've got to get those goggle zombies. Somebody make them. Yeah, that movie is like, I've been wanting to play that movie forever. That and The Thing. John Carpenter's The Thing,
Yes.
which I have stuff for. I just need to paint it now.
Yep.
And
We just got to
and
figure
that's
out
the
the
tough one.
mechanisms for
The
having hidden guys.
Yeah, The Thing is one of my favorite movies of all time, and that's one I have a ton of Arctic stuff. I have a ton of figures for the mutated thing, but it's like, and I've talked to Jay about this a bit.
I've got the terrain to do the base, so
yeah, and the thing is like, how do you, with 8 guys? How do you, which sometimes is a pain in the ass. I love everybody, but it's like trying to figure out something that's, because the Thing movie is very, it's small, and how do you play it to where you capture the same feeling? Like, who, everybody's got miniatures, but who is the Thing? And playing it with Fistful of Lead, and we'll get there. I have no doubt that it'll.
Yeah, we've been dreaming about doing this for years, so we'll pull it off. Maybe our next sort of Halloween thing will be more like that, or
that'd be fantastic.
Or maybe we'll do it for Christmas, since it's in the snow and stuff.
Have me break out that would be great, because I got the little head with the legs on it and stuff. But it's like, and that would be a great one, because you'd have the objective is like somebody's got to secretly take out like communications room, or take out the tower, or do stuff. I don't know how the hell that would end up working, or
I'm already thinking about it.
It'd be fantastic. I
hit that seam on, or come on, or whatever it was. I did their space zombie one. What the hell was it? It was
Zombicide.
The Zombicide and space one that Kickstarted a couple of years ago. And I was disappointed with a lot of the figures that came out of that, because they all had really small heads, and they were just the problem with sculpting stuff realistically is they're sculpting stuff realistically, and they're sculpting stuff for miniatures, and they're not the same. You have to kind of oversize some things, especially guns and stuff for miniatures. But I really like the aliens in it. So I painted up all the aliens, and they're great. They've got like, teeth in their chest, and there's some flying ones, and then there's some big ones, and all this kind of stuff. So I was like, what am I going to do with these? And I had them all painted up. Then I looked over, and I just happened to look over, and I had all these Elizabethan era miniatures. So I came up with, I'm going to do this, what happened to the Roanoke settlement.
Oh God, that's so good.
And so I'm going to build the Roanoke settlement, and it's going to be basically all the natives come running out of the woods, because the night before they saw this star fall from the sky, and it landed out in the woods, and they all come pouring out of the woods, and then here come these creatures. So it's essentially going to be like Rourke's Drift, sort of like a Zulu thing, but it's going to be a bunch of like Elizabethan guys with like pikes and muskets attacking these hordes. And the hordes are going to, because I've got some flyers in there, I've got these big behemoth things and all that kind of stuff. So I can't wait to do that one.
That's going to be badass.
It's one of those things where it was like, I got the miniatures. Now what am I going to do? Kind of do with them. So
now I've already gone
of having all this like weird lead sitting around. What are you going to do with this kind of stuff? Oh, I'm going to take these aliens. I'm going to take them.
Well, and it's like I've got like five Star Wars figures on my table, half painted, that I've been toiling over, and it'll finish out kind of what I've got in all the hundreds of figures I have for a while. And I'm like painting them, and I've already gone squirrel twice by saying, "Ooh, I've got those Martians. I'm going to break those out tomorrow."
I got to paint. I really want to paint.
Now I've got the Thing. I'm going to get out the Thing figures and paint those. Oh Lord!
Well, it's like I really want to paint the Remnant Troopers, but
yeah,
I don't. I've got 100 other things to finish before there. So we're getting down to our last 10 minutes. So if anybody's got any questions about scenarios or Wiley Wargames Weekend or anything like that, gives a shout in the comments real quick. McMurray said he heard Rorke's Drift and he's here for it 110%. Well, I'm talking about, aliens and matchlocks. So that's going to be my thing. But basically, the only thing that's Rorke's Drift about it is the hordes versus a small fortified position kind of a deal.
I know that usually we'll get, you and I will get started talking about seeing. I haven't seen Dune yet. The new.
I'm going to watch it tomorrow for a third time, maybe.
Yeah. I know as soon as I'll watch it, I'll want to get the miniatures, the Skull Forge Dune figures that he made, and want to play that.
Yeah, he's got the Fremen in his regular store. And
I thought, did you say he made the
he's made the
Harkonnens?
Sardaukar and he's made the Harkonnen. So you've got enough stuff there, man. And like you said, just if you need the sandworm, we'll just flop it out there on the table, baby. The old man of the desert himself.
The spice.
The spice. Whoa.
So I did not to jump off miniatures, but I did hear that what's his name that plays Baron Harkonnen is great.
Oh, he's fantastic. Everyone in it's great.
So
they just got the green light today for part 2, which I love that, but then there's another 2-year wait. So the thing that I saw today was that the cinematographer, God, what's his name? Greg. The cinematographer and Josh Brolin did a book together, and it's the cinematographer. Villeneuve told him he wanted him to take pictures during the filming, and he got this. He said, "I got my old Ukrainian 1950s cameras. It's taking all these photos." And so he's taking all these photos during the filming, and then Josh Brolin's done all the writing for it, and it comes in this beautiful book, and then it comes in this case, and inside the case is that book, and then there's a smaller book that it's a replica of the Fremen Guide to surviving the desert, and then there's another book that's about all the ships and all this kind of stuff, and it's just this gorgeous box, and it's got gold leaf in it and all that stuff. $600, and it's already sold out.
Yikes! I know you texted me pictures. Jay texted me pictures today of some of the stuff that he printed out of cyberpunk stuff, and it looks great.
Yeah. We're gonna do the cyberpunk. It's gonna be Wasteland Warrior upgrade.
I would love to play a Blade Runner scenario with that, to where you've got characters that
find out who's a skin job.
Yeah, skin jobs. That would be fun. And the great thing is a couple years ago, Hallmark made an ornament.
Yep.
That was the car, was the police car. Yeah.
I bought Blade Runner. And then I found an STL I found a couple STLs of other ones that are kind of variants, one that's super sleek, like a sports car version. And then I found some taxis and stuff like that. So I'm slowly working on it. I want to do for Cyberpunk and Titan Forge under their Cyber Forge side, which I'm a member of their Patreon. This last month they just did it's the equivalent of Shadowrun, which in the 90s freaking loved. It's a role-playing game that
I never played Shadowrun.
So in the future, all of a sudden these kids are starting to be born orcs and dwarves and elves, and so all the eldritch races are starting to come back. But at the same time, it's also in the future. So there's these corporations own. There's no countries anymore. There's just corporations that own different parts of the different countries. Some are run by dragons and shit. And so instead of going into a dungeon, you're trying to break into a big corporate place and hack into a computer. And instead of real treasure and stuff, you're getting information and things like that. It was like super cool. But anyway, they just came out last month with all that stuff. So I got like a dwarf guy with all these bombs. They've got these. There's like a one troll dude who's like selling weapons. He's got his trench coat open and he's got all his weapons.
Oh, I saw him. He's great looking.
And then there's like a elf chick because there's magic and stuff too. So you got technologies. You got dudes with machine guns, but then you also got guys that can throw fireballs and stuff. So I can't wait for that because it'll be another one of those situations where we're using all the books. I'll be using the magic from the fantasy set. We'll be using all the cybernetics and stuff from Wasteland Warriors, and it'll be super cool.
But that's Wasteland Warriors upgrade.
Yeah, I mean, you're basically taking all the mutations and you're just calling them cybernetics. Oh, look, it's Scott Matthews, and we're gonna shut down in 4 minutes. Hey, Scott. He's on that California time. He doesn't know that it's 7 o'clock Central Standard. So, all right. Got a couple more minutes. Anybody got any questions or anything or comments that are fit to read? Otherwise, it's been our usual hour and a half broadcast. Of course, you can go back and watch it and catch all the pictures and stuff you might have missed.
Yeah, and catch you in a bad mood on Facebook. Or, I would say if you got to throw out ideas for good scenarios that you've been cooking up on there too.
Yeah,
nice
so we are talking about
that
running.
stuff.
We're going to run a couple of specials and a couple of campaigns where we're going to ask you, the viewers, to post your gangs or to post a cool hero or to post scenarios. And if the judges think it kicks ass, then we'll give you some free stuff, either in the form of a gift certificate on the website or a big thing, or we'll have stuff that will
tender hugs.
I will come to your house and I will hug you for at least
I'll
one straight
film it.
minute, whisper in your ear, that kind of stuff.
Sweet nothings.
Yeah, that kind of thing. Or Steve will show up wearing just a bow. But yeah, so Thursday we're going to be doing the Great Revenant Hunt. If anybody wants to come in and check on that, and we're trying to get to 300 subscribers. So if you like the show, please subscribe to us. And most importantly, if you go to our website, if you go to wiley-games.com, subscribe to us, and that'll make sure that you get always the newest sales we're having, because we're going to be running sales in November. We're currently running a sale right now for all of our Tales of Horror stuff, since it's almost Halloween, and you'll hear about things like the hardback that you might have missed, because if you're on a subscription, you would have got a heads up that this is happening, and that kind of stuff. So we're gonna cut it out here. Hey, if you're yes,
so nice.
Yes. So
that's so nice. It is a great book.
So if make sure you buy Wiley Wargames, buy some of our games. Your miniatures will thank you.